In the freezing winter of 1692, a deep and deadly paranoia swallowed the isolated village of Salem wholly. Welcome to History Now Studios. While we often forge original myths, today we explore the dark reality of human terrors. It began quietly, inside a gloomy wooden home, where a few young adults suddenly suffered from severe, violent bodily fits. They contorted in pure agony, screaming that invisible phantoms were violently biting and pinching their terrified flesh. The local doctor was utterly baffled by the strange afflictions and quickly declared that the evil devil was responsible. In strict Puritan society, religion was the absolute law, and fear of demonic magic was an incredibly real and dark terror. Accusations began to fly through the cold air. The afflicted pointed their trembling fingers at innocent local women then. The very first to be accused were the vulnerable outsiders, adults who did not perfectly fit into the strict church rules. Tituba, an enslaved woman, was brutally interrogated until she confessed to signing the dark and terrifying Book of Satan. Her forced confession validated their absolute worst fears, sparking a massive, uncontrollable wave of absolute mass panic. Soon, even highly respected members of the community were dragged into the dark, damp dungeons under charges of witchcraft. The Colonial court accepted spectral evidence, meaning a person could be condemned entirely by a dream or a strange vision. This made defending oneself practically impossible. If a neighbor claimed your spirit attacked them, you were found guilty. Neighbors used the chaotic trials to settle old land disputes and seek cruel revenge under the false guise of holy justice. The tragic tale of Giles Corey stands out boldly. He completely refused to enter a plea, denying the corrupt court's power. To force a simple confession, the ruthless sheriff ordered heavy stones to be piled directly upon his chest for 3 days. With his final agonizing breath, Corey did not surrender to the dark fear. He simply demanded them to add more weight now. In the end, 19 innocent adults were hanged on the dark gallows hill, their bodies swinging in the cold, bitter wind. 5 more unfortunate souls died in the freezing dark jails, waiting patiently for a fair trial that would never arrive. But what truly caused this madness? Modern science offers a fascinating theory involving a toxic fungus known as the ergot. Ergot grows on damp rye and produces violent hallucinations and severe muscle spasms, perfectly matching the early symptoms. A very cold winter followed by a damp spring created the absolute perfect conditions for this deadly fungus to rapidly grow. Did a contaminated bread harvest accidentally spark the most infamous and terrifying witch hunt in all of American history? Or was it simply the dark result of profound psychological stress, driven by constant fears of brutal frontier warfare then? The isolation, the freezing cold, and the strict religious dogmas created a highly explosive powder keg of mass hysteria. Eventually, the absolute madness broke. The governor dissolved the corrupt court when his very own wife was fully accused. The dark prison doors were opened, and the surviving victims were released, completely ruined and scarred for their lives. Years later, a colony officially apologized for the tragic error, but the deep psychological damage had already been done. The Salem Witch Trials stand as a dark reminder of how quickly society can easily collapse into absolute and blind terror. It proves the most terrifying monsters are not ancient demons, but the dark and paranoid shadows within our very own minds. In our original fantasy stories, we often explored dark realms where magic is absolutely real and immensely powerful indeed. But the horror of Salem is that there was no real magic, only the destructive, unchecked power of human belief and panic. The tragedy of 1692 coined the term witch hunt, a phrase we still use today to describe political targeting. Today, modern visitors flock to Salem, Massachusetts, seeking ghosts and the grim echoes of the deeply dark colonial era. They stand before the somber memorial stones, reading the carved names of innocent adults who were unjustly executed there. We must never forget the heavy cost of their lives, sacrificed on the brutal altar of extreme religious fanaticism today. History Now Studios is dedicated to bringing you immersive narratives from the darkest corners of the absolute deep past. By examining the terrible mistakes of our ancestors, we hope to build a much more logical and deeply compassionate future. The true lesson of the Salem trials is the deep importance of evidence, critical thinking, and the protection of the weak. Paranoia spreads faster than any disease, infecting minds until reasonable adults commit truly horrific and dark actions. As long as humans fear the unknown, the dark shadow of the Salem trials will continue to haunt our collective conscience. The screams of the condemned faded into the wind, but their tragic memory remains etched into the cold and ancient stones. Join us next time as we dive into another historical mystery or explore a new fantasy realm forged deep in our imagination. Always question the accepted narrative, seek the absolute truth, and never let dark fear completely control your own mind. Thank you for watching History Now Studios. Stay curious, stay brave, and remember that history is always watching you now.